Here's what to expect when you take Ozempic with type 1 diabetes. I started 4 weeks ago taking 0.25, the lowest dose that you're supposed to take on Ozempic. Within 3 days, I noticed the impact on my long-acting background insulin dose. Basically, I needed less basal background insulin. I noticed this because I was just trending lower. So I reduced my long-acting insulin dose by 10%. I also noticed an immediate impact on my appetite and how full I feel when I'm eating, which means I'm just easily eating a little bit less. I haven't changed what I'm eating. I'm eating all the same foods, but I'm eating a little bit less of them. By the end of a week, you can bet that that is going to impact your insulin needs. Your long-acting insulin doses are affected by how much you eat. It's not just the insulin that you take for meals that changes based on what you eat. There's like multiple reasons why your insulin needs are gonna come down in the first few weeks on Ozempic. Reason number one, you're just full sooner, you're not as hungry, you're gonna eat less. Reason number two, your liver is gonna make less sugar. All day long, your liver is making sugar. When you're taking Ozempic, you're gonna make less sugar. As a person with type 1, you have been overproducing sugar all this time. When you remove that extra sugar, you immediately decrease your background insulin needs, which immediately helps some weight fall right off. For me, that immediate weight loss was about 3 pounds that I knew I had gained in the months prior because I had gone off Ozempic after having been on it for a year. I like to think of that as kind of the extra insulin weight. I've done everything I can in my lifestyle habits to keep my insulin sensitivity high, to keep my insulin needs low. But I know that extra insulin I have to take for that extra glucose that my liver is making does lead to a little bit of weight gain. When I started taking Ozempic again, that 3 pounds starts to come off pretty easily in those first few weeks. All of this means that by week 2, I lowered my long-acting insulin dose again by 10%. By week 2, I also started noticing a little bit of nausea when I first wake up in the morning. And I'd say it's really mild, like nothing that I really need to even complain about. A funny thing I have noticed on Ozempic is that when my blood sugar is dropping, sometimes the first symptom I feel of that blood sugar dropping is nausea. And that's not a symptom I felt during low blood sugar when I wasn't on Ozempic. By week 3, I started noticing that I needed significantly less insulin for my meals. I would even say that it's almost 50% less insulin for my meals. That's a lot. 50% less insulin? That means you have 50% less insulin taking sugar and storing it as body fat. Ozempic makes it so much easier to just stay in range, and I have already experienced that after only 3 weeks. When I'm eating, especially if I'm eating carbohydrates, it's just like there's this little cloud pushing your blood sugar down, and you could go high, you could still have highs, right? It's not magic, but it makes it so much easier to keep your blood sugar down. A huge part of that, again, I want to tell you, is not that you're eating less, but that your liver isn't overproducing sugar all day long. The impact Ozempic has on your liver sugar production, this gets really overlooked, I think, when we're talking about the way this affects type 1 diabetes. We are all overproducing sugar, which means we're taking more insulin, and that insulin is taking that extra sugar and storing it as body fat, which makes it so hard to manage your weight. It's like you're not fighting this uphill battle. You're not swimming upstream. I think even our doctors underestimate how hard it is to manage our blood sugars and our insulin doses and our weight because of that extra liver sugar. That's really, I think, one of the most impactful things of Ozempic. Overall, that impact that it has on your appetite is pretty incredible. It is so relieving to just not feel hungry all day long and to actually feel satisfied when you eat. By week 4 on Ozempic, I feel like my insulin doses are pretty steady and my weight has dropped that extra 3 pounds that really annoys me. And I just feel like this is my new regular. If I were to increase the dose, of course, that would change. But I personally don't plan on increasing the dose from that 0.25 therapeutic dose. When I have tried to go up in my dose on Ozempic in the past, my stomach hurt and I couldn't really eat anything without stomach pain. So that's why I keep my dose really low. If you're larger, if you have more weight to lose, your doctor's probably going to encourage you to increase the dose. Take your time. The side effects that you see in the headlines, you're not going to experience those on 0.25. But I still benefit from Ozempic on that super low dose. It's definitely critical when taking Ozempic with type 1 diabetes to change your insulin doses quickly. When you start noticing that you're trending lower, do something about it. If you're not comfortable adjusting your own insulin doses, call your healthcare team right away. You're gonna need to make adjustments in the first few days. You might need to make adjustments again a week later, and then 2 weeks after that. You need to really be on top of it to prevent dramatic lows. But once you get things adjusted, you shouldn't be experiencing dramatic lows. You just have to refine tune what all your personal insulin needs are. If you're starting Ozempic and your blood sugars are already pretty high and you're struggling to get them down, you might not actually need to make reductions in your insulin doses because your insulin doses might stay where they are. Ozempic joins the party and that's what helps get your blood sugars into range. But everybody should be on the lookout for lows. Speaking of lows, make sure you have emergency glucagon when you start Ozempic. Also, speaking of lows, find my book, How to Stop Overeating During Low Blood Sugars, on Amazon. This is gonna help you curb that roller coaster habit where you binge every time you go low. Ozempic is pretty awesome and I'm really grateful to be taking it. I would honestly be willing to pay a few $100s a month just to get this so that I can keep taking it for the rest of my life with type 1 diabetes. That's how helpful it is. That's how much of an impact it really has on your ability to manage type 1, stay in range, manage your weight. It's a lot of work, right? This helps make it easier. Learn more about getting Ozempic and taking it with type 1 diabetes in these 2 videos. Thanks for watching.